So I've been testing out the Amazfit Bip 6, Huawei's Watch Fit 4 and Xiaomi's Watch 5 for a few weeks, and all of them seem to be packing in a lot of new tech and upgrades at comparable prices. But which one should you really be buying? Now in this video, I'll compare the designs, their features, heart rate sensor accuracies, real-life battery tests, GPS accuracies, and much more so you can make an informed decision on which budget wearable to buy this year. Right, before I jump into the nitty-gritty details, I just wanted to talk about the prices and options for a bit. Now the Bip 6 is the cheapest wearable here, coming in at $80 or £80. There's 4 different colors for the Bip 6, and it's good to see some color variations at this lower end of fitness wearables. Next up is Xiaomi's Watch 5, and this thing comes in at around £90 or €100, and Huawei's Watch Fit 4 is the most expensive option here, coming in at £150 or €170. Now I should also point out that none of these come with LTE or cellular options. All of these will be connected to your phone, and things like text messages, calls, whether it's making them or receiving them, will be via Bluetooth through your phone. Right, so let's talk about the designs of all of these wearables, and starting off with the Bip 6, this uses an aluminium alloy in its frame with a plastic case to keep it lightweight, which is a bit of an upgrade from last year's Bip 5, which felt a bit plasticky to me. And there's 2 buttons on the sides of the Bip 6. Both are sleek looking buttons but still tactile enough to press whether you're outdoors or indoors. And the Bip 6 main menu button has this textured surface. The software and UI is Amazfit's own Zepp OS version 4.5. It's fast, smooth and stutter free overall. The display on the Bip 6 is this 1.97-inch AMOLED touchscreen, which is not only a first in the Bip series, but can also go all the way up to 2000 nits peak brightness. Not bad at all for this price, and 2000 nits is also the peak brightness that Huawei's Watch Fit 4 can go all the way up to. And speaking of the Watch Fit 4, its design is probably the slickest out of all of these wearables here. Its casing again is made of aluminium, similar to the Bip 6 and Xiaomi's Watch 5, but it just feels a bit more polished and premium compared to those two. It also comes with a rotating crown along with a secondary button right below it, and from a software perspective, Huawei are running their own OS here and it feels snappy and smooth. No complaints at all. Now one thing I do want to point out about the Huawei Watch Fit 4 is that when you start setting up this watch and start using all of its health and fitness apps, you'll get a lot of disclaimers that you need to read and agree to before using any of those individual apps. So whether it's starting a workout, measuring your blood oxygen levels, or anything at all, even the simplest thing like accessing the notepad here, for example. There you go, another disclaimer. There's no universal disclaimer on the Watch Fit 4. You have to read and agree to each and every one, which is quite annoying to be honest. Now Xiaomi's Watch 5 is not far behind Huawei. It feels premium as well with this aluminium alloy frame, and it definitely feels slightly better to touch and use than the Bip 6, but it's not as good or as polished as the Huawei Watch Fit 4. In terms of buttons, there's just one here, which is a rotating crown that can be pressed just like an Apple Watch. The resolution of the display is also pretty good, and I've not had any issues with low resolution imagery or screens anywhere during my use. I also like the fact that the bezels here are really slim. It almost feels like this whole front face is a display without any bezels at all. So good job by Xiaomi with the display here. Now when it comes to durability of these screens, only Amazfit clearly declared that the Bip 6's display is made of tempered glass, which is fine for this price point and should be durable enough for daily use and general activities like running, indoor training, cycling, hiking, and so on. The Huawei and Xiaomi watches, however, don't really specify the materials that have been used on the Watch Fit 4 and Watch 5's display. So I'm not 100% sold on the durability of the displays on the Huawei Watch Fit 4 and Xiaomi's Watch 5. Now all of these are good for 5 atmospheres of water resistance with some caveats on their usage. And at the back of these, they have their own proprietary suite of sensors along with their optical heart rate sensors, which I'll be testing out later on in this video. Right, so let's talk about all of the things that these 3 watches can track from a health, performance and recovery perspective. Now the Bip 6 is packed with just over 140 different activities. So you've got your usual stuff like running, elliptical trainer, weightlifting, yoga, etc. But it also has some other stuff like race walking, BMX, hunting, rock climbing, combat workouts and so on. And Bip 6 is one of the world's very few wearables with a Hyrox mold built in here. Now this isn't a big surprise because Amazfit is actually the official wearable partner and timekeeper of Hyrox races across the world. So if you're training or thinking of training for a high rocks race, the Amazfit Bip 6 is the one to go for. The Xiaomi is also packed with a bunch of activities, more than 150 of them, so there's something for everyone out there. And it also has some other stuff that you normally don't expect in a fitness tracker, such as board games and jiu-jitsu. I think you'll most definitely find the activity you're looking for in the Watch 5. Just note that it won't do multi-sports like triathlons or duathlons, and I wouldn't really recommend any of these watches for things like triathlons or duathlons. For multi-sports, I highly recommend watching my full in-depth comparison between Garmin, Coros, Sunto and Polar sports watches. And the Huawei Watch Fit 4 comes with more than 100 different activities, and one really good thing about the Huawei is that it's able to track routes for 7 major aquatic activities, and this Huawei's first ever water sport route tracking, and I don't believe that Amazfit or Xiaomi can confidently say about those two wearables. In addition to activities, all of these wearables can track your sleep, blood oxygen levels and stress levels, and on top of that, the Bip 6 also tracks your training load, which gives a status of the overall intensity of your activities, which is really good. Another thing that the Bip 6 unexpectedly does at this price point is outdoor maps. So you can actually download areas or regions from the Zepp app straight onto the Bip 6 for viewing offline maps. Just keep in mind that there's no functionality to actually create an offline route for an outdoor activity within the Zepp app, so you'll need a third-party service for that. Download the GPX file onto your phone and then open that within the Zepp app to transfer it to the Bip 6. The maps are okay, the resolution is fine, it's not the sharpest, but the colors are punchy enough, especially in this dark mode. If you're happy enough to create an offline route and then export that as a GPX file from a third-party service to load it onto your Bip 6, then the availability of offline maps at $80 with the Bip 6 is unbelievable value for money. Speaking of maps, the Huawei Watch Fit 4 also gets offline maps with terrain data that you can download straight onto it and use it for tracking your location outdoors with added voice and turn-by-turn guidance, which is really good. And the quality of maps, data presented and resolution is much better than on the Bip 6. Now, the Xiaomi Watch 5 unfortunately doesn't get any offline map functionality, so if you were specifically looking for offline maps at this price point, I would personally get the Huawei over the Amazfit Bip 6. Now, when it comes to sleep tracking, all of these will do the usual stuff like sleep duration, time spent in each sleep stage, average resting heart rate, SpO2 levels, and trend them over the last few days. But the Amazfit and Huawei present a lot more data, like the sleep regularity, respiratory data, and heart rate variability, which the Xiaomi lacks. And out of these three, the Amazfit is the only one capable of developing a sleep apnea risk profile, which it does by measuring your shallow breath whilst you're asleep. Really impressive at this price point. And I compare the sleep data of these three wearables against my Garmin Forerunner 970, and whilst on most nights all of them were somewhat close to the Garmin, the Bip 6 was much closer to the Garmin in estimating the light, deep and REM sleep cycle durations. The Xiaomi on some nights, like on this one, was wildly overestimating some of the sleep cycles, with the Huawei somewhere in between these two. The Xiaomi just doesn't measure or show heart rate variability, which is a weak point for the Xiaomi if you're looking for a reliable metric to gauge your recovery and training readiness. Now overall, whilst the Xiaomi Watch 5 has an extensive list of activities, the Huawei and Amazfit watches truly charge ahead. Okay, let's talk about the smart functionalities and features. Now, each wearable here is running their own operating system with some smart features. These aren't full-blown smartwatches like the Apple Watch or Wear OS watches by any means. And for me personally, the highlight of all of the smart features amongst these three watches is Amazfit's Zepp Flow. Now, this is a voice assistant where you can not only ask several things around your performance or recovery, but you can also type, dictate or reply to messages using a full QWERTY keyboard. Let's just keep in mind that it's probably only going to be available for Android phones. I mean, the Bip 6 is still using your phone to send and receive text messages, but being able to type on a full QWERTY keyboard on an $80 or £80 watch is almost unheard of. There's no contactless payment features on any of these wearables. Huawei has an NFC feature in it, but I haven't been able to load my debit or credit card onto it, unfortunately, to use it outdoor for shopping. Now, the Xiaomi can be set up to receive notifications from your phone, receive and even make phone calls from the watch. You can see messages come in, but there's no option to reply them, nor even preset messages, which is a bit of a disappointment for the Xiaomi watch. Now, the Huawei can do most of these things, except there's always some form of an obstacle in trying to access these features. And things like replying to texts using the text-to-speech feature is only available when you pair the watch with a Huawei phone, not with Android or iPhones, which is a bit bizarre. Now, like I said, that the Watch 5 doesn't have any NFC payment features here, and there's no smart assistant like Alexa or Google Assistant available here, which is a bit weird given it definitely has a mic and speaker. So why not have that that here and try to differentiate it from its competitors. And you can't really download any more apps here on the Xiaomi Watch 5. You just kind of get this set of apps preloaded onto the watch. So overall, I think that the Bip 6 has the best suite of smart features out of these three wearables. Let's talk about battery life. And Amazfit claimed that the Bip 6 can last for up to 14 days in smartwatch mode. Huawei claimed that their watch can last between 7 to 10 days, but those two are no comparison to the massive 24 days being claimed by Xiaomi for the Watch 5. And in my testing, the Xiaomi lost the least amount of battery every night whilst I was sleeping, just 1% drain on average, and 1 to 2% for a mix of outdoor as well as indoor activities. So overall, the Huawei lasted for exactly 7.5 days on a single charge, with the Bip 6 coming in at 10 days. But the Xiaomi was just way ahead with its mind-boggling 19 days battery life on a single charge with mixed usage. 19 days is unheard of in this price range. The only other wearables I can think of that can last for several weeks are Garmin Instinct wearables and any other wearable that basically has MIP displays. But 19 days for an AMOLED wearable is really good at this price point. So if you're just looking for the best battery life, the Xiaomi Watch 5 is the one to go for, with the Amazfit Bip 6 taking the second place with a respectable 10 days battery life. Right, so when it comes to heart rate sensor accuracy, all of these wearables are using their own optical heart rate sensors, which I've tested out against my trusty Polar H10 and Garmin HRM 600 chest straps, which use ECG technology and are often considered as the gold standards for heart rate measurements for sports. And I've also been comparing this against my Garmin Forerunner 265 and Forerunner 970 watches, which I've validated extensively against these two chest straps previously, so you can get an idea of how some of these budget wearables compare with some of the more expensive wearables like from Garmin. Okay, let's look at a steady state medium paced run. Now, average heart rates are also comparable, so are the calories expended, except for the Huawei watch, which estimated almost 200 calories less than all of the wearables tested here. A bit bizarre to be honest, but more on that a bit later on. Now, looking at strength training at the gym, this is a troublesome activity for lots of watches due to all of the hand movements and rapid fluctuations in my heart rate. And both the Amazfit Bip 6 and Xiaomi were very close to the chest strap in terms of the calories expended as well as the average heart rate. Really impressive here. And the Huawei's calories measurement were again a bit off here, but the average heart rate was spot on. I'm not really sure how Huawei's algorithms are working here in estimating calories expenditure, and that wasn't a one-off case either. It showed a much lower calorie expense for this other strength training workout when compared to the chest strap. But you know what? I did an extensive test with the Amazfit Bip 6 and my mind was absolutely blown with the accuracy here. This was an all-body workout with loads of arm movements for bench presses, shoulder raises, bicep curls, you name it. And it's obvious that the Bip 6 has been able to keep track of my heart rate with the chest strap. And just for comparison, the pink line here is my Garmin Forerunner 265, which I was also wearing the same workout, and it's got some random fluctuations throughout the workout, whereas the Bip 6 has been solid. I'd never thought I'd see the day where an $80 wearable has better accuracy than my $400 Garmin. And the accuracy is even better for a legs focused workout where there's not a lot of arm movements and a lot of random fluctuations. So out of these three wearables, the Amazfit Bip 6 is the most reliable watch to go for if you wanted the best heart rate tracking accuracy for workouts. When it comes to GPS and location tracking, all of these come with a single frequency or single band GPS antenna that can latch onto multiple satellite systems for location tracking, which is a bit inferior to dual frequency or dual band antennas that sports watches like Garmin or Sunto and smartwatches like the Apple Watch or Wear OS watches do. And all of these watches have done fairly well when it comes to measuring my pace when compared against my Garmin Forerunner, except for the Amazfit, which was a teensy bit slower but not by much. The distances measured by all are also very close to the Garmin. Both the Xiaomi and Huawei watches did fairly well outdoors, whether it was running in residential areas, trails with dense tree coverage, parks as well as city areas. They've managed to stay locked onto me throughout this run, no major issues at all. Now, I tested the Amazfit Bip 6 and the Amazfit Active 2 separately for outdoor runs and cycling, and I compared them to my Garmin Forerunner 265, which uses dual band technology for better accuracy. And looking at one of our cycling tracks here, the blue track here is the Amazfit Bip 6, green is the Active 2, and the red one here is the Garmin. And it's quite obvious that the Amazfit watches have followed our route fairly closely. Most of this is forest with dense vegetation on either side, and both Amazfit watches have managed to keep track of us from the start all the way around the lake and back to the starting point. It's clear that the Garmin is slightly more accurate, like here where the Amazfit watches are tracking us out of the cycling track compared to the Garmin, but overall they've managed to keep track of our location fairly well. The Bip 6 has performed much closer to the Garmin, which is very impressive. Now you can check out my full in-depth comparison between the Amazfit Bip 6 and the Amazfit Active 2 in the pop-out banner right now. But between the Xiaomi, Huawei and Amazfit watches, all of them perform very similar to each other and there's no clear winner here. Okay, let's talk about app interfaces, and starting off with the Zepp app here for the Amazfit Bip 6. The app does a really good job of presenting summaries of your core metrics right on the front page here. It makes it easy to just know in a glance if everything's green or if there's something to pay attention to, like here in orange, and you can then dive deeper to know exactly what's going on with that specific metric. There's also daily readiness insights which summarize your activities and recovery and what to do next to improve. Activity data is also presented well, like this outdoor run here where the app shows the route taken, pace, cadence, stride length, running power, performance condition during the workout, gradients, and even trading effect, which is pretty good for a wearable at this price point. I'm quite happy with that. And the activity data on the Huawei is also presented pretty well here. There's running metrics that I wasn't even expecting, like my ground contact time, vertical oscillation, balance between my left and right feet, aerobic and anaerobic training effects, and so on. And the data coming out of the Huawei is not garbage either. All of these metrics were fairly comparable to my Garmin Forerunner 970, which is brilliant news. The rest of the Huawei Health app is okay, it's clear enough, but there's a lot of ads here for other Huawei wearables, products and features, including premium features that require a subscription, which I personally think you don't really need to use this app or the watch itself, but it just looks a bit cluttered in places because of all of those ads, unfortunately. Now the Mi Fitness app for the Xiaomi Watch has a lot of good things going on for it. The interface here is clean and minimal, but it still shows you all of your health metrics measured by the Watch 5 in a bit more detail. Now looking at activities, the app again presents performance metrics really well in these colorful charts, and for running there's actually a good amount of information extracted, like the GPS route, and there's even things like training effect and training loads here, which is impressive, although the metrics here aren't as detailed as the Huawei Watch Fit 4. But one really good thing about the Mi Fitness app is that there's no paywalls or monthly subscriptions here. Now, one feature that the Amazfit Zepp app does that the other two can't is an AI feature called Zepp Coach, where you can provide some initial details and the app will build a customized training program just for you, which is a really good feature provided for free to all users. Now, what I'm not really happy about with the Amazfit Zepp app here is the Zepp Aura feature. Now, this is where Amazfit have taken all of the sleep data gathered by the Bip 6, done some further in-depth analysis, and then put all of that behind a paywall of $10 per month to access the results of those analyses. Now that is not good, but to be honest, a lot of manufacturers have started doing this. Heck, even Garmin introduced a paywall, which is a bit lower than $10 per month. Now I personally never felt the need to access Zepp Aura or any of those detailed insights and analysis, as the sleep data coming out for free is actually pretty detailed and comprehensive for anyone's needs. Now overall, all of these apps have their pros and cons, with the Huawei and Amazfit apps offering certain premium features under a subscription, which I don't think you necessarily need for day-to-day use, whereas the Xiaomi Mi Fitness app is completely free without any gimmicks. So then which one of these budget wearables should you go for? Now I think it's quite a tough choice, so I'll try to break this down as objectively as I can. If you wanted the best design and most polished wearable, I think the Huawei Watch Fit 4 is the most complete and premium feeling wearable out of these. With the Bip 6 not far from it, just keep in mind that the Bip 6's display is the only one that has an official spec from a durability perspective compared to the Huawei and Xiaomi watches. All of these have a large database of activities and you're likely to find what you're after in any of these, so no clear winner there. Now for offline maps, I think that the Huawei Watch Fit 4 again does a better job than the Amazfit Bip 6. Just avoid the Xiaomi Watch 5 in this category, as it doesn't support any form of offline mapping. For the most comprehensive sleep tracking capabilities, I think Amazfit's Bip 6 does a really good job, as it also measures sleep apnea risk, which the other two can't, and its readings, including HRV measurements, were on par with Garmin watches. Now if you want more smart features, again Amazfit's Bip 6 is a clear winner here. It also comes with its AI-based assistant Zepflow, which the other two watches just can't compete with. Want the best battery? Xiaomi's Watch 5 is a clear winner here with its mammoth 19-day battery in real life, with the Bip 6 coming in at a respectable 10 days and Huawei's Watch Fit 4 at 7.5 days. If you wanted accurate heart rate tracking during activities, Amazfit Bip 6 is a clear winner here. My mind was absolutely blown when I saw the detailed heart rate charts here for strength training. Now for outdoor location tracking, all of these are comparable to each other, so no clear winner here. Now I hope that table helps you pick the right wearable based on your own priorities and needs. But if you ask me which one I'd personally go for between these three, I'd probably consider getting the Amazfit Bip 6. It's not only cheaper than the other two watches, but I prefer having more accurate heart rate tracking, sleep tracking, as well as HRV measurements to gauge my recovery, which the Amazfit Bip 6 does amazingly well. It's still got offline mapping for those occasions where I do need navigation guidance outdoors, and has a good balance between performance and battery life, coming in at a respectable 10 days. And it was just an overall joy to use day to day. And to new viewers, don't be shy from pressing the subscribe button, especially if you don't want to miss out on my full epic comparison between the Huawei Watch Fit 4 and the Watch Fit 4 Pro, a detailed comparison between all of the Apple Watches released in 2025, as well as a full in-depth comparison between Samsung Galaxy Watch 8 and Google's Pixel Watch 4. See you in the next one.